One.
Well, hello there, everybody.
Well, hello. And welcome back to Area Nerdy 1.
I am Jimmy.
And I am Jarrett.
And we are the Three Amigos. Minus Matt.
The Invisible Swordsman.
That's the Invisible Swordsman. Jarrett, you killed the Invisible Swordsman.
Well, how was I supposed to know where he was? That's why we all fired up in the air. For the Three Amigos. Underrated classic.
Yes. As brothers, we have an entire catalog of movies that we just randomly quote, and nobody knows what the fuck we're talking about.
We're Jimmy and I are the closest thing that we have to a hive mind, but it's only like really obscure.
It's only like weird movies that you would have buried, like a VHS buried in the back of your cupboard there. Yeah.
Like, oh, my aunt and uncle have a DVD of that. I saw.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna put this graphic up so people know a little bit what we're talking about.
Yes. So if you have any kind of band or liking of Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones at all, you know your entire Instagram, your Facebook, TikTok has been filled with the new release of House of the Dragon, which is on episode 2 or 3.
Yep.
Yeah. And of course, Rings of Power.
2 episodes.
2 episodes.
Yeah. Everyone's scrambling to be the first one to review it, except us, because we don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
We do. We give a fuck, but we
do.
But I don't want to pay for a subscription. We're watching it. We watched the first episode of Rings of Power.
We did.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to just bring up that because Jimmy just said it, is that we don't really do the whole like get there first and do it. We kind of get to a leisurely pace. We do this just so we can actually review it and actually have a little bit of a good time with it.
Exactly.
And we're not rushing anything. You know, when we get to it, we're gonna have something to say about it. And it's not just gonna be watch this, don't watch this.
But that's why this entire month is dedicated to it, so we got plenty of time to catch up.
This is it's not a theme month, but it might as well be a.
This
theme
is like
month.
one of the biggest nerd fights since Kong versus Godzilla.
This is like the actual fight between Star Wars and Star Trek fandoms, except more realized.
Yeah, but here's the deal: we're not going to be able to tell who wins because
when you play the game of nerds, you win or you die.
Yeah, really, which of these series dies first?
Yeah, so there is 2 very interesting things about this. We're gonna go dive head on into House of the Dragon, but there are 2 main points that we need to bring up that are major contributors to these shows. First and foremost is House of the Dragon is following up the abysmal end of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, maybe maybe you didn't watch last season, maybe you just never watched Game of Thrones, maybe this is your first time hearing about either of these series.
Yes.
The 8th season of Game of Thrones left fans jaded and wanting for something more.
Basically, I would say honestly, if I'm being very honest, the first 6 seasons of Game of Thrones are pretty much peak and perfect television.
Yeah.
Season 7 is a little mix. It's got some good stuff in there, definitely.
I mean, it went for 8 seasons. There are highs and lows, but it's to date probably one of the best, if not the best series ever put to television.
Yes, but with Game of Thrones season 8 is definitely one of the not the best. The ending was absolutely atrocious as far as storylines were concerned. So House of the Dragon has probably the largest fan base ever in history, especially for television, is now the most jaded and cynical at this point. And
that's what's interesting about Game of Thrones is there's such a cross section of fandoms,
casual fans, non-casual fans.
Yeah, I mean, like Game of Thrones drew in like viewers who maybe weren't into high fantasy before this, and vice versa.
Absolutely. So it's going to be very interesting. So they have very high expectations. And we're not going to go into everything just yet, but on the opposite side is the Lord of the Rings of Power, which is a terrible name. The Rings.
It is a little bit like ATM machine there.
Yes, the Rings is the most expensive show ever.
Jerry, you want to ballpark that price tag on this bad boy?
So in general, most shows will be like on the high end. Like Game of Thrones was running about 20 million per episode. That's a ballpark. There is ups and downs because obviously the Battle of the Blackwater is going to be a lot higher than the first episode.
Any episode that has a minute of dragons is going to be
yes. This show is running up closer to 50 million.
So more than twice of what the most expensive show to date had been.
And this is so HBO was very interesting because they had the budget through subscriptions. It's kind of
Yeah.
like the subscription before anything else. Amazon is the first real streaming service to put this kind of money behind a show.
Right. Well, Amazon is, everyone knows it's Amazon. It's not just a streaming service. It's
Yeah.
got its tentacles in everything.
Right. So I will go off on a tangent real quick.
Okay,
So
tangent away.
we were talking. This kind of goes into it. We always bring up on the show when we talk about streaming shows and streaming services is how difficult it is to make money. Right.
Right.
You know, Netflix is always hemorrhaging money because they don't actually have an apparatus to make money outside of the fees, which
Right.
is, monthly fees.
Yeah, it's kind of a flat rate more
Flat
than.
rate.
Yeah.
So most streaming services are actually taking losses on this.
Right.
But Disney is the exception because Disney is a whole other corporation. It has the Disneyland, it has all these stuff
Yeah.
so it doesn't matter if they take a loss
Yeah.
on a streaming service and put movies on there. It's kind of the point is generate more and more
Yeah.
content.
Get people get people on It's a Small World.
Exactly.
Buying $45 churros and $80 Mickey Mouse ears.
Absolutely. So I'm thinking Amazon, it would be the same thing, but we have to see. This
Yeah.
it's going to be a very interesting time.
Well, the thing is, Amazon, like Disney, they don't care if people are subscribing for their content. You're not paying for a subscription to watch Lord of the Rings. You're paying for an
Yes.
Amazon Prime subscription. Once people have that subscription,
They're gonna go buy stuff.
they're buying stuff. They're getting the free shipping. They're
Yes.
doing. It sounds like I'm a spokesman more of.
yeah.
I'm not a fan of Amazon. Honestly, like
They're not a sponsor.
This is not a they're not a sponsor. This isn't a political podcast, but let's just say I'm not the biggest fan of
We
Amazon.
are nerdy economists.
Right. And I'm still mad at Netflix. Jared, will you retrieve Skekmal for me?
The Hunter.
Skekmal the Hunter. Yep. So this guy, you all may remember him from Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance. Now this guy was not only is he like the best Funko Pop I've ever seen, but
Just the amount of detail.
him and all the other puppets in that show, sorcery, absolute sorcery.
Beautiful. Beautiful show.
But it fell into the trap of
Being too expensive.
for something like Netflix, which it was spending too much money and did not see the return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they did shell out a lot for a lot of merchandise, as you can see.
Yes.
But they didn't seem to be. It did have a very strong but small following, so they didn't have the big return on investment.
Yeah. So you are correct on that. But the thing is, unlike Disney, Disney was a media company before it became a streaming service.
Right.
Amazon was a business before it became a media company.
Right.
They're still very much business oriented, and then you get a show that is the most expensive show ever.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't have that return on investment like we see with most other shows.
But okay, yeah, and that's the thing that falls in that we've talked about a lot with movies. And this is kind of the reason that they're pushing theaters a lot more now. With movies, you can put tons of money into a production, and your return on investment is going to likely be much bigger. So you put more money into, Marvels are a safe bet. But let's say it's like a Marvel movie or a Star Wars movie. You put more money into it, you're going to see more return on investment.
Yeah.
Versus, like we say with streaming services, you may see a bump. Generally speaking, in the past, this is what happens. They see a bump, and then it's just kind of a flat rate. They got, it's more like people paying rent than people, than them striking gold more of.
They don't usually make a lot of money off of this, but they've also been marketing this a lot too.
Right.
I'm interested to see more of it, obviously, but we have to get into the House of the Dragon first.
Okay, I already put the freaking graphic back down. All right.
Yeah, we need to set the stage first. You don't go right into Shakespeare. You gotta get the lighting. You gotta get the music.
It's still the Lord of the Rings graphic.
That's fair. House of the Dragon.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the review. So like I said, we haven't watched House of the Dragon yet. So Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. So
The Rings of Rings.
Yeah, The Rings of Rings. So my wife and I, we both watched all of Game of Thrones. That was a show that we shared together. So we have to both watch House of the Dragon, which is really the reason why we haven't gotten to it.
Right.
She doesn't give a shit whether or not she sees Rings of Power, so I've actually been able to watch that whenever I want. So until we can schedule some time to have a movie night and actually watch House of the Dragon. That's
Yeah.
probably gonna be on the wayside, but the reviews are in.
Yes,
The reviews
they
for-
are in. And what do those reviews say?
They say it's pretty good.
Pretty good.
They say it's pretty good. You know, it's they're saying that the CGI isn't 100% there, but they're saying
to be expected.
Yeah, they're saying it's like the reviews are so far pretty positive. Fans and critics are saying, yeah, it's pretty good. It may didn't blow people's socks off the way like watching your first Game of Thrones episode would, but
Right. Well-
it's definitely got people hooked.
Well, when people watched the first couple episodes of Game of Thrones, it wasn't, people didn't really appreciate it. It was still very high quality and people liked it. It's just
Yeah.
that it got better reviews as it was, viewed on later experiences.
Right.
So right now,
Plus, you fall in love with all the characters.
absolutely. So right now, where it stands at I look at basically most averages on online ratings, and I get about a 5-star ratings.
Yeah.
Averages, which is like 5 being perfect, 1 being terrible. The House of the Dragon has a 4.4, usually overall fairly good. Not Citizen Kane every single episode, but you know what? It's a good show. For reference, Game of Thrones, for season 1, first episode, 4.7.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
It seems like it's 4.5 is kind of the median. Though.
Yeah, 4.5 is a pretty good median, but it feels like they really are like learning from their mistakes.
Yeah.
They know that this isn't gonna be Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
They know what they had to correct from the last season and make its own thing. So I'm very interested in seeing this. I think all the characters are very interesting. They're not all one notes, even from the brief history from George R. R. Martin.
Mm-hmm.
Have you read Fire and Blood?
I
The
have
book?
not. No, but I've read that like the visual history, like the World of Ice and Fire, which love the illustrations
Beautiful
on that.
book.
Yeah. I picked that up at a used bookstore for $10.
That's a steal.
You cannot
You
find that.
stole that.
You cannot find that thing used for under $45.
Robbery.
It's unreal how popular that book is.
You want to know what also is really popular and really expensive? Skull Island: A Visual History.
Right.
Massive amount of money.
Aside here, because that's what we do on this. It's our show,
it's
damn
our
it.
show.
Sit down and listen. So
You can't go anywhere. We're already talking.
When Peter Jackson's King Kong came out, they released a companion book that was basically like a natural history of Skull Island.
Yeah.
And it had Weta Workshops, all their like drawings and all their character designs for all these creatures, and there were like hundreds of these, creatures that they designed for this. And
They designed the whole ecology for the island.
exactly. And this thing, I would read this ad nauseum as a kid, like read it 150 times.
It was at our local library, and and just from the both of us, we
Wore that thing out.
wore that thing out.
Yeah, and so as an adult, I'm like, I've got adult money. I'm gonna buy this book. You can't find this thing for under $200.
It's massive
Like,
amount of money.
even used, it's. I think that they only printed probably a very minute, small amount of it.
Yeah.
And B, I'm gonna go ahead and guess that people like us really love this book and love the designs.
Absolutely.
So yeah, but we digress.
Peter Jackson, if you're watching this, print some more.
Yeah.
Yeah, but House of the Dragon, very interesting. So it's based off of the story that George R. R. Martin wrote, Fire and Blood, the whole Targaryen history up to the point of Aerys, the Mad King. So it's a very brief history. So they have a lot of characters to play with.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of fill-in. There's going to be a lot of like fleshing out like loose ends and stuff. I'm very interested for one reason alone.
Why is that?
We're not seeing all of the major houses. We're not going to just be following Stark, Lannister, Baratheon. It's going to be Manderleys. It's going to be Valerians. It's going to be, the Blackwoods, the Brackens. We're going to see the smaller houses.
We're gonna get everyone's seen the Starks and the Lannisters, and we've not to say that we wouldn't love to see more of them, but those stories have been kind of played. We've watched those stories play out for 8 seasons, so now we want to see some different characters.
One of the things I'm really interested in is like, especially in this story, a lot of the major houses like Baratheons and the Tyrells, especially the Tullys, especially as well. They're just like throw up their hands like, we're staying out of this.
Yeah.
We're staying out of this. And then the local lords fight, and that's who we're gonna see a lot of.
Right.
And like instead of being like just dire wolves and lions everywhere, we're gonna see House Rain.
Yeah.
We're gonna see House Tarbeck
of the Reigns of Castamere.
of the Reigns of Castamere. We're gonna see more Tarly action. High towers, obviously.
Boy. So yeah, and like one thing about Game of Thrones is you kind of pick this up in context, but some of these houses don't, like, Lannisters, they, when we see them, they're the richest, most powerful house there is, and the Baratheons are kings, but like throughout their history, their positions sort of like ebb and flow. Like we're gonna see them different than we're used to.
It's so in this kind of story, what I really got the gist of is during this time of Targaryen rule, like the major like great houses are more of like less of like the strong hands that we see of Robert Baratheon and Tywin Lannister. They're kind of more of like the people that the lower houses just kind of check in with, and then that's kind of it. Like there's a lot more of autonomy there,
right?
One person I'm actually really excited to see is Quellon Greyjoy, the Red Kraken.
The Red Kraken. Okay, he's he starts doing piratey stuff, right?
He basically shellacks all of the Westerlands. Spoiler alert for the story. After the Dance of the Dragons, like the whole thing is concluded. The Civil War is concluded.
I mean, stuff happens. The Civil War is going to get concluded.
It's going to get concluded.
What do you think was going to happen?
It's going to end. Like everyone's like at peace, and we're like, okay, that was good game, everybody. Let's go home.
They all slap hands.
Slap hands to get some orange slices, and there's the Hour of the Wolf, and everything is pretty tense. But then they kind of realize, oh, the Greyjoys are still rocking the shit over in the West, and they're not stopping.
Right.
And and to the point where it's just like we can't do anything about this.
Right. It's like the Greyjoy, like we saw this in Game of Thrones. The Greyjoys just love like when shit goes down and they get to sucker punch people from the other side. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is really which is kind of interesting is like I have my own opinions on what the Greyjoy invasion of the North,
Yeah.
But literally the only place that the Greyjoys would ever have any real lasting success would be in the North, and they don't go to the North because it's the middle of the winter.
Right.
Like they know they can't do that. Then Balon Greyjoy and Game of Thrones is an idiot.
Yeah.
But I digress. I'm really interested in seeing lower houses, more interesting characters.
Right. So one of the things I'm kind of seeing like from the material and like I know vaguely how this happens, but we're looking at Rhaenyra and Alicent Hightower, played by let's get some names going because we always
why didn't we do this? I love the memes online I'm seeing of like people like going, oh, Dany Targaryen, she's so cute, and then Rhaenyra comes on the screen. Ooh,
oh my! So she's Rhaenyra is being played by Millie Alcock, and oh, geez, no. Rhaenyra is being played by Emma Darcy.
No, Emma Darcy is the older Rhaenyra. Millie Alcock is the younger Rhaenyra.
Got it. Okay,
and then
they do kind of look alike. So.
They do.
All right. And then Olivia Cook is playing Alicent Hightower.
Yes.
Okay.
Emma Darcy is also in a lot of other really good shows. Like I think she was in Raised by Wolves and a few other really good shows. She's a phenomenal actress.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. Is that like these actors are maybe not as well known, like in Game of Thrones. These actors maybe aren't as well known, but they are all heavy hitters when it comes to acting chops.
Are you kidding me? We got Dr. fucking Who
right
railing his niece.
I don't think they actually do anything. Yeah, but anyway, so
they do.
The story with Alicent and Rhaenyra is that they obviously right here they're like super besties, but then we end up getting to this scene where they're trying to literally stab each other. I'm getting very like the Tudors vibes from this.
Yeah, well, so this is going to be spoiler alerts going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy.
Okay.
Good job.
Thanks.
So what happens is that Rhaenyra is the daughter and heir apparent of Viserys Targaryen.
Yeah.
And Alicent Hightower is her best friend in court, and their best friends are besties.
That's not a super spoiler. We see it in the trailers, and it's kind of
it's kind
of like what gets the action going.
So what happens is Alicent Hightower eventually seduces and marries her Viserys Targaryen and becomes queen. I mean, how would you feel if your best friend just married your dad and now is throwing your whole line of succession into question?
I want to say
stab.
Probably, yeah, stab.
I was stabbing. Ha! Yes.
You married my dad, so you get the stab.
You can do two things. You can have a very nice honeymoon. It'll be great. Go down to Dorne, have some wine or something, or I can put a fork in your eye. There's gonna be two. Those are the two options. And I have the spork, and the spoons are over there, and the forks are right here. What are you choosing?
Yeah. So so like with the time period, but not the time period. You know, like the. Like I said, I've with the costumes and they kind of changed the look up a little bit. I am getting very the Tudors vibes from this. Like if you watch the Tudors it's on Netflix, I think.
Yes.
That was a Starz series. It's about Henry VIII and his 6 wives and whatnot. It's pretty good. I'd say that was one of those shows that was a precursor to Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Well, also like kind of interesting because like the costumes that they're going for is very much more medieval.
Yeah.
A lot more medieval and more kind of like, I guess like period accurate. I guess.
Yeah.
Which I like because though Game of Thrones tries to be as accurate as possible, it's definitely a modern take on medieval fashion.
Yeah, well, it's kind of an alternate world, so I think that they're kind of trying to make it more of an amalgam of what would be there. Yeah,
absolutely. But I like everything I'm seeing so far. I like it. I was very hesitant on this, but I think I'm gonna like it no matter what. Yeah. I'm gonna like it.
I talked about this in the show. I still can't get over the fact that Matt Smith, his armor is the armor from Amazon.
What?
So okay, fine. Let me see if I can find it. Blah blah blah. So basically, if you go on Amazon and look for leather armor, the first thing that comes up is this armor that's like.
Oh yeah, you just show me that. They did go over like the that's kind of a take on the actual armor from, I guess, it would be, who's the Targaryen that stole Lyanna Stark? Rhaegar Targaryen's armor from the Battle of the Trident. I think that's kind of what they were going for.
And they must have. So like, wait, you mean like an illustration?
Yeah, like the illustration. That's kind of what he goes. That like George R. R. Martin even said what he looks like very ornate, very dragony black and everything. So I guess that's what they kind of did for.
But
him.
Literally, it's the armor you get from Amazon. Yeah. If you want like just a cheap $80 armor.
Yeah, I do understand that. But when you see all the other armors in all. That all the other knights are wearing, they're all very simplistic, and his is like this gaudy looking thing.
Yes, okay.
Like I think the point is like for me, when I saw it, was like it's very ornate, it's very beautiful, but it looks cheap.
Right.
Which is what Daemon Targaryen is. This like princely character, this awesome fighter and everything. But at the end of the day, it's just this cheap thing, that looks that the more you look at it, the worse it is.
The more you're like, did you buy that from Amazon?
Yeah,
maybe I'll hop over to Amazon and watch Rings of Power. Which, speaking of, let's go back to Rings of Power. Okay, so
back to the Rings.
So we watched the first episode.
Yes.
And what was it you said to me, Jared?
I said this looks like a Lord of the Rings movie.
Right. And that's exactly, like, I was looking at the reviews, that's exactly what they said.
Yeah.
People are saying like, okay, it definitely looks like a Lord of the Rings movie. It has the feel, it has the special effects wizardry. The story isn't 100% there yet, though.
Yeah, but I gotta be honest with you. When I was watching I'm rewatching Lord of the Rings just for this. And I gotta be honest with you, the Lord of the Rings is there's a lot of majesty with it. I love these movies with all my heart, but it's very hard to get into, like with them talking about stuff and everything. It's put together masterfully, but if it was even a little bit off and didn't have everything together like it did, it wouldn't be very watchable.
Yeah, and to be fair, they are going with basically the footnotes that Tolkien made for his entire universe.
Yeah, and of course, like going from the mastery of Peter Jackson and making 3 consecutive movies right after one after another, and a streaming service making episodic stuff is going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
This felt like an actual Lord of the Rings show. It's I was very concerned because I did not like Wheel of Time. It felt very cheap. It felt like a sci-fi show.
But not in a good way like The Witcher.
No. The Witcher is a sci-fi show that I want to watch.
Yeah, it's almost like one of those shows you would watch on TV in the 90s, like I don't know, like Hercules back.
Absolutely.
Back before Kevin Sorbo was in.
Kevin Sorbo became Kevin Sorbo.
Became modern Kevin Sorbo.
Kevin Sorbo. Yeah. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I thought, obviously the characters need some work and in depth, but I am here for the sweeping shots. I'm here for the music. I'm here for Galadriel
Speaking of-
explaining shit.
Yeah, speaking of, okay, yeah, so that was one, like I said, that was one thing that all of the critics are saying, and fans. I try not to get too much into what other fans are saying, but the critics are saying like the special effects, like you see, look amazing. Let me make an addendum to that statement. It's not that I just don't, it's not that I don't fans' opinions or trust them. I do like to check them out, but
Everybody is
when it's such a large sample size, you get like
white noise.
yeah, exactly. So it's very hard to discern what exactly the actual effect is. But so the critics, who are their whole job and training is based on saying what is what. But yeah, the special effects are perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah, they're on point.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, and I was really surprised. They only showed a little bit of it, but they showed some of the War of Wrath, which I didn't think I would ever see that put to screen.
Yeah. No matter what you think about this show, if you hate it, it's showing things that we would have never seen before if it wasn't made.
Yeah, like there are some, like, people do illustrations and stuff, but there are large swaths of Tolkien that I only have in the realm of my imagination.
It's a brush.
Yeah.
Very, very loose, over broad, everything.
Yeah.
So it's like a history, very broad terms. So that they're putting it to like the screen and making it look good and making me feel like, oh, yeah, this is what it would be like if like the worst entity that ever existed started a war.
Yeah,
that's what it feel like.
Yeah, exactly. And I was thinking about this with Smaug. There's tons of illustrations and several different variations of him on screen, because he doesn't really get explained. Like, he doesn't get described.
Yeah.
Like a character as integral as the dragon, who's like the main crux of the story, doesn't really get described.
Yeah.
Just kind of lives in the reader's imagination.
Kind of like the Rankin Bass Smaug. A big cat.
Yeah.
A snake cat, which is ironically my favorite version of Smaug.
Yeah, he does his whole Smaug speech.
Yes. I loved it.
Yeah. That was my biggest pet peeve about the second Hobbit movie, is they didn't they not only didn't 100% like do the one for one of that speech, but they also kind of like broke up the scene so it wasn't continuous.
Yeah. Well, I did like that like Smaug moving around would cause an earthquake, and then like, what was that?
Yeah,
that's a good scene. But like,
that, my boy, is a dragon.
Yes. So I think more to I did think about this, like what the Hobbit was missing was more interactions with Smaug. But what I thought again was what I thought the Hobbit did really well was the treasure, just how much there was. Like you're like, I was thinking like, oh, Durin's grandfather had some gold,
Right.
It's not a big thing ever, it attracts a dragon, but this was like way too much.
Okay, Jared. So Forbes comes out with a list of all the richest fictional characters, right?
Yes.
So let's see here. The top, like, let's start with the 8th is Tooth Fairy with 3.9 billion.
Which Tooth Fairy? Just general Tooth Fairy?
It must be. Bruce Wayne, 9.2 billion. Number 2 is Smaug. Guess how much?
Well, all that well, are we talking about like?
I think that they made an addendum for the movie version.
Okay. I'd say 20 billion. But that's a good amount, right?
20 billion. Okay. The amount that Smaug is worth is 54.1 billion.
Ooh.
However, he still comes in second to Scrooge McDuck at 65.4 billion.
Jesus.
Like, Scrooge McDuck, like, we say eat the rich in on this side of the reality.
But he'd be duck.
Yeah, he's a duck. He's actually a duck. So like,
Oh yeah.
So Smaug continues to hold like one of the top spots as richest. But then again, wouldn't that make Dane Ironfoot the richest actual character?
No, split 17 ways.
Oh yeah, that's true. Okay.
Or 15 ways, yeah. So that's very interesting. I also have a thing to say about that. Is during the Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, what I liked is that they kind of brought Smaug into the War of the Ring.
Right.
A dragon, because there's no other dragons.
Right.
There's nothing else that can contend with Smaug.
Yeah.
You know?
And he's pretty big for a dragon, if that. Yeah.
I think no. I'm saying in my own headcanon that Smaug is actually pretty small. But the fact is, after like all the wars with the elves and the Iluvatar and everything, there's no more dragons.
Yeah.
So the simple fact is he's the alpha predator of Middle Earth just because there's nothing else there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay. But canonically, that's the one. Even in the literature, they don't ever explain this. But that's the reason that why Gandalf wanted the crew to go reclaim the mountain.
Yeah.
He didn't. He wanted. He's like, we see it. We see it in the Hobbit movie. But that's like what was actually going on behind the scene. But Tolkien didn't really explain it.
But there is one thing I'm excited for about this, and it will tie into the Hobbit a little bit. So I'm excited for the orcs. I really don't like how they're just like these evil things, but it's like it's really obvious, like in the expanded universe, like the games and everything, is that lacking like Sauron or Morgoth, they form their own cultures, and they're still like pretty aggressive, but they are sentient creatures.
Yeah, especially in what was it? Shadow of War.
Yeah, Shadow of War,
which isn't canonical, but still it
should be.
Yeah, it should be.
But like the Battle of Five Armies, the orcs and goblins are there not for like to have like kill everybody. They're there just to get the treasure, because they killed their king.
Yeah,
like if they were just like, hey, like Gandalf even says they're here for a share of the treasure for assassinating their king.
Yeah,
and they're just like, yeah, let's band together and kill these people.
All right, yeah. First of all, in the movie, they go out of their way to show that they are there for Sauron. In the book, like you say, they're there after the dwarves land on their doorstep, kill their leader, and bounce.
Yeah.
So like they've got an actual legitimate grievance.
like a bastard comes up and he's like, hey, why? Well, I thought that would be a very good and interesting scene in The Hobbit where Azog has to go to like the goblin army and be like, hey, join us. And they're like, no, we just want some treasure to like rebuild our city that they fucked up, and they killed our king, so we need to get a new leader. That's it. That's all the reason why we're here. And then Azog can be like, I got Sauron here. Sauron's got my back. He's the actual necromancer. And the goblins could be like, I don't care.
Yeah.
That's not why we're here. We had a king. We don't need Sauron. But then Azog can be like, okay, well, I could just kill you. And they're like, fine, we'll go home.
Yeah.
And then what should happen after that is Azog should be like, it should bring up the history of dwarves and elves versus goblins and how they've treated them and how the dwarves came in and killed their king and just left and forgot about them.
Right.
And give the goblins some character and orcs some character that they're not just these mindless creatures, that they are, sentient, and they do have societies that can be changed.
And you would get that a little bit in The Hobbit, where you see like the different sections, the different regions have different types of orcs and like a little bit different aesthetics. I think, as you can see with this guy in this show, we're gonna get that a lot more because these orcs seem to have a lot more texture, a lot more like culture, I guess you would say.
Yeah, I mean the orcs in the Lord of the Rings were very textured, and they had a lot of really unique looks, especially for Moria orcs and the Mordor orcs and goblins. But what I didn't get from that was that they were formed by a region. Like this looks like an orc from the desert. Yeah, that's a desert orc. Like Moria orcs are from Moria. I get that.
Yeah, they live in the ground and in mines. Yeah,
yeah. And then Mordor orcs are Mordor orcs. I can see that. But this looks like an orc distinctively from a region. It's not just like a Mordor orc that is wearing rags. No, this is a desert orc.
Yeah, or maybe a forest orc.
It's got a lot of brown on them.
Yeah, that's true. It does blend in with the sand a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, like I said, we're gonna hopefully see a lot more of that in this series. But what's next? What else are we thinking for? Okay, Rings of Power. It's also like House of the Dragon. It's also getting pretty good reviews.
Yes.
Like people aren't blown away. I mean, they're blown away by the visuals. They're maybe not 100% on board with the story yet, but
right now it's sitting at a pretty 3.1 on the reviewing scale. However,
okay, you guys can. I'm sure that people can still hear us. But
okay, so it's Oh,
Okay, that's interesting.
wow.
Okay.
That's a real air nerdy one. Yeah, that is a whoopsie. Yeah, see, that's actually happening.
Well, it's a good thing. All right, so keep going. I'm gonna
Yes.
try to fix this.
Absolutely. So it's sitting pretty good at a 3.1, so it's not doing spectacular, but like we said, I think it's pretty good. It's still good if you like Lord of the Rings and you like what they are gonna be putting up here. You're not gonna have an issue with it. When like Jimmy says, we usually don't go through the fans because unfortunately white noise is
White noise is taking over our camera right now.
yeah, exactly. This is what happens. So what I like to do is I just kind of look at basically what a lot of people are generally saying, and it appears to be a lot of really diehard fans do have an issue with the fact that these are not stories directly from J.R.R. Tolkien. But the thing is, like we just said, is that Tolkien wrote with a broad brush when it was outside of the Hobbit, and even in the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings, like Smaug, the most important villain of the entire story, doesn't really get defined. It doesn't get. No one really knows what he looks like in the story. And we're back. You can see our pretty faces.
So
Beautiful.
okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry.
Pay no attention to the dudes in the
Yeah.
nerdy nerdosphere cave.
We were using a new camera. Area 51 guys came over and said they were experimenting with this. And they said something. The note said something about it may or may not take our souls.
What is this, Area 51 or the SCP Foundation?
What's the difference?
Good question. Okay.
Yes. So a lot of fans are saying that it's not based on the stories. But here's the thing: we have the stories already that they stayed very faithful to, and that's Lord of the Rings. I don't mind having a blueprint that they already have, Galadriel, it'll Middle Earth, orcs, whatever, and letting people do whatever they want with it. I mean, it still looks like a good show to me.
Yeah. So I'm gonna watch. I mean, I'm gonna watch it, but I'm probably gonna borrow someone else's Prime subscription.
Yeah, I have Prime
Because I don't want to pay for it.
I want to watch it, more of it. But I am currently rewatching all of Lord of the Rings with my girlfriend.
Yeah, is she on board with it?
You know what she said to me?
What?
After we got done watching Fellowship of the Rings.
Okay, that sigh said it all, but go on.
That was pretty good
That was pretty good.
for 2001.
That's pretty. It fools the eye into 2022. It fools the eye 21 years later.
We're gonna have to give you updates. The deal was that I would watch all 7 seasons of Outlander, and she would watch the Rankin Bass Hobbit, all Lord of the Rings, the prequel trilogy of Star Wars, and then the Star Wars original series, along with Rogue One mixed in there.
And you're gonna skip the sequel series.
Yeah, fuck them.
Yeah. Anyway, so they.
Fuck those. Fuck those. Just fuck them. I don't care.
Yeah. I'll say it before I'll say it again. I've never seen a company so disregard a huge section of their IP like that.
Yeah.
Like, apart from like occasionally having Kylo Ren or something walking around the parks, I don't see any like promotion of that section of their IP.
No.
All right. But all right, back to the IP at hand, shall we?
Back to the actual. We always degrade right into Star Wars.
Oh yeah, every single time.
Right into Star Wars. Yeah, it's getting a little mixed reviews from like diehard fans, but you know what? I think it's worth the watch.
Yeah.
It's definitely just for the act. The acting's pretty good.
Yeah.
The costumes are also really good.
For
It looks
like you say, for the massive changes that you would have to make to any of Tolkien's works to make it they put Lord of the Rings through a lot of changes to make it an hour and a half movie.
Oh yeah. No, it's 3 hours.
Yeah.
Theatrical is 3 hours.
Yeah.
And you know what? I read Lord of the Rings. Do you know how many fucking times Frodo and his friends fall asleep? Like, not actually like fall asleep, but are put to sleep by something before they even get to Rivendell. And that, and including Rivendell, it's like 9 times.
And then what the fuck is Tom Bombadil?
Yeah, there's no explanation for Tom Bombadil. Even in his letters, Tolkien was like, I don't know.
Shit, man, I was high when I wrote that.
Yeah, fuck him.
So okay, one thing I do want to talk about.
Yes.
So we're gonna see one thing that I know kind of like from the promotional materials is we're gonna see the friendship and most likely degradation of said friendship between Elrond and Durin the Fourth.
Yes, that was also a question by a lot of fans: is why do dwarves hate elves? I'll let you go first, and then I will go into my spiel.
I don't know.
Oh.
I seriously don't know.
Oh, you don't know?
No.
Okay, so being the Area Nerdy One's cultural and economic expert, my credentials are...
Your credentials are you read economic books, whereas I haven't.
Yeah. So basically, when we look at cultures and how like antagonist cultures actually arrive, it's just through differences. Like we look at the elves. The elves are very like elegant. You know, they're very like you know
pointy-eared princesses.
Pointy-eared princesses, and you know, the dwarves are just stunties underground. That's from Warhammer.
That's from War. Oh, okay.
That's from Warhammer. They call them orcs. Call the dwarves stunties.
And they believe it.
Yes, exactly. So the dwarves are basically, you know, very much more of like the mining culture, the warrior culture, whereas the elves are more of a kind of a warrior sometimes
warrior philosopher, warrior scholar, maybe
artist, you know, and that's where a lot of things arrive. People go to wars over less stuff, you know.
But I feel like that there's gonna be something that comes up that Elrond, you know, this is just like generally the trajectory that stories take.
Yeah.
There's gonna be some misunderstanding, and Elrond's gonna have to screw over the dwarves somehow.
I think it's gonna be the opposite. Because in a lot of the stories that we see and like the focus of the dwarves is mining, building, and doing their own stuff.
Right.
So even in the War of Wrath, when a ton of elves are dying and fighting for everybody, we don't see a ton of action on the dwarves.
Right.
Like could be something like, hey, we're fighting and dying. Can you help us? And they're like, no.
So the opposite of The Hobbit, basically.
Basically the opposite of The Hobbit, but I think that's kind of where the standard starts getting set. Like, the dwarves are in their holds, and they don't do a ton of farming outside of their own holds and stuff. Mm-hmm. So, like, when the orcs run wild, what do they care?
Right.
You know? So the elves are, like, taking, like, this is all of our fight.
Yeah.
No, it's not to the dwarves.
Right. And, so another thing, I in the trailers we see Durin's Bane, which is the Balrog. Spoiler alert. But I looked it up. Durin's Bane doesn't show up until during the reign of Durin the Sixth, and this is Durin the Fourth. So how the hell are they going to shoehorn the Balrog in there?
Well, this is the thing. It's a Balrog. Mm-hmm. So Durin's Bane can still be under there resting and doing its own thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Smaug. There's other Balrogs, but the fact there's just not a lot of them. Mm-hmm. So one Balrog makes a difference.
Right.
So this is probably the point where like the Balrogs have like the power and numbers of the Balrogs have already been broken, and this is like the remnants.
Right.
Durin's Bane can still be like, you know, I'm checking out.
Yeah.
And the dwarves can still be like going in there, disturbing him, and he's just not that disturbed to the point where he's got to get out and kill everybody.
Right. One interesting thing, like I think it was lore. It was a Lord of the Rings lore YouTube, but basically people, you know, he asking questions like, why didn't Sauron ask Smaug to join him? Why didn't he ask I was wondering about this. Why didn't they ask the Balrog to join them? And I'm thinking about, okay, maybe the Balrog and Smaug were like too powerful for Sauron.
So I have my own theories.
Okay. What are they?
Thank you for asking.
Okay.
So, my theory is the fact that a lot of Sauron's power is in the ring.
Yeah.
And the fact is, first and foremost, the Balrogs are the henchmen, and the dragons even are the henchmen of Morgoth.
Who's the original big bad?
Who's the original big bad? And Sauron was only a lieutenant.
Mm-hmm.
He might have been the lieutenant, like the right hand, but as far as Tolkien said, he's just a lieutenant, one of them.
Yeah,
and Sauron just survived. So, like, let's say
let's bring up Sauron.
Yeah, let's bring up Sauron. So let's bring up the scenario here, Jimmy.
Yeah,
you're at your job, right?
Yeah,
and you have a boss you respect, and he has got his underlings, and you're like not a low tier, but you're low tier, and then your boss, you know, as all bosses do, get thrown into a bottomless pit of despair where he can never arise again.
The pits of despair. Don't even think. Don't even think about trying to escape.
And then all his lieutenants also, you know, as they do, get beheaded brutally in front of the office.
Yeah.
And then you're doing your job, you're doing whatever for 2 years, and then one of his lieutenants come up to you and say, "Hey, come work for me." Actually, no, you actually work for me now.
Yeah.
What would you do?
Say nah.
Nah, fuck it.
Yeah.
But I think so that's where I think it is. Like, Durran's Bane doesn't want any part of this.
Right.
Like, we don't see it a lot in the books or the movies, but I feel like it's kind of like the orcs. They have personalities.
Yeah.
It's a fallen Maiar. It doesn't want to be part of this anymore. It got disturbed distinctly from it where it was resting.
And distinctly for like thousands of years did not
Fuck around.
Did not leave. Yeah.
It did not fuck around. It did not find out. It was just there. And then even during the actual War of the Rings in Moria, it's just chilling.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything. The other side of that is I think it might be going after the ring itself. I mean, it's got Sauron's power in it. So if it gets that ring, it can even become more powerful than Sauron is right then.
That's probably, that's true. Speaking of Sauron, this is him in disguise. We were talking, like last time we talked about Sauron, we got that image of him, that promotional image that from that angle, people were like, he looks like Slim Shady. Now this is a different angle of that character. A little bit different, a little bit more kind of an androgynous looking character. Now it's like, okay, I kind of get it now. He's like, not like before he looked like an angry teenager. Now he's like a being who you would be like, oh, what's this guy saying?
I have a theory.
Yeah. What is it?
Thank you. So I think this is Sauron right after the War of Wrath, because he's not Sauron the Deceiver yet.
Yeah.
So I think like it's kind of like that again, the boss scenario. Your boss gets, you know, as bosses do, get thrown into the pit of despair.
Right.
And now he's got to lay low. He's never had like a mortal form.
Yeah.
He was at the top. He was like, you know, he's an angelic form, a fallen angel, trying to do his best, and now his boss is dead, and he has nowhere to go.
Right.
I think this is his first disguise to kind of feel out what Middle Earth is like.
Right.
And I think as we're going to go through the show, we're going to see him change forms and become more charismatic, more beautiful, become Sauron the Deceiver.
Right.
No offense to this actor, by the way. No offense to this actor. I think he looks perfectly fine for what Sauron should be right now.
He looks like especially with the makeup and the angle and everything, he looks like an otherworldly being. So
yes.
I'm getting like with the staff and the robe and like the stuff, I'm getting very Skeksis vibe from this guy. So I think
really? I got like Cthulhu cult.
Yeah.
Vibes.
I think he's gonna be lurking around the courtroom going like, like you mean like, yeah, do that thing.
I think it's gonna be for me, what I would like to see is like Sauron with PTSD. Basically goes through like the whole like, I'm putting all my life and everything I know and love on this dude to like make the world better.
Right.
Doesn't happen, and now everything is broken and wrong, and I have to figure it out.
Right.
Kind of stuff. And like going through that and like learning what things are and then becoming Sauron.
Right.
That we know. Like this is what the Rings of Power Sauron is supposed to be. But when he turns into Lord of the Rings Sauron, that's what I'm interested in.
Right. Okay, so we got 10 minutes left. I would like to introduce a new segment to the show I'd like to call Apropos Nothing. Because
Propo nothing?
Yeah, I just think about, nerdy things during the week. I write it down. I'm like, I want to talk about this on the show. So, First things first. Do you have something you want to talk about?
Yes, I do. So, just real quick before we get into his segment, because fuck it.
Yeah.
I'm watching Sandman.
Hey, Mr. Sandman. Bring me a dream.
Bum, bum, bum,
Is that song played in the show yet?
No.
Waste.
Really good. Honestly, I think it's like there's right up top here is the God damn it, what are they called?
American Gods?
No, not American Gods, for the DC show with Robot Man.
Doom Patrol.
Doom Patrol, Sandman.
Really?
Really good. Artistic. Well,
like American Gods. This is a Neil Gaiman.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just like I think they really just said, "Hey, we got a source material here. We're gonna go with it.
Yeah.
and it's really good. It's less of a just like a straight story, and kind of more like little stories that are vaguely tied together.
Yeah. Okay.
I
So
like
more
it.
more of an anthology.
Not really. Because it does have an actual overarching story, but they really play it kind of not really fast and loose, but they're just like, we're gonna tell the stories we're gonna tell.
Okay.
It's really good.
Nice.
Yeah, I would give that a 10 out of 10.
Wow.
Honestly, it's just,
Yeah.
everyone does really good. Some child actors are not very good. Oh, but the diner episode.
All right. No spoilers.
No
So-
spoilers, but it's good.
If any of you guys are comics fans, I know I'm a comics fan, but I haven't read the Sandman comics,
Yeah.
but those are like always on people's top 5 list of comics you should definitely read. So
Yeah.
wondering if I should read that first.
Yep.
All right.
The next thing I have is Bee and Puppy Cat. I have been a fan of this show while it was just a couple of episodes on YouTube.
When it was just a couple episodes old.
Yeah. Coming out on Tuesday. I am so excited.
It's kind of psychedelic, isn't it?
No.
No. What's the premise?
This is one of the shows I don't want you to spoil. I don't want to spoil it at all.
Okay.
You should really go into it with a clear head. It's kind of like Adventure Time.
Yeah, I'm getting a
Just-
very Steven Universe vibe from this.
It's
poster.
less Steven Universe and more Adventure Time.
Okay.
Things are just kind of happen, but it's got that emotional kick in this fantastic world that really just resonates.
Right.
You know? I would honestly watch it on YouTube first, all the episodes.
Mhm.
I just love it.
All right, so it's getting its own show.
It's getting its own show. Apropos of nothing, before you head in, the Bone.
The
TV
bone,
show.
the bone, like bone, like the
Phony Bone.
Yeah, phony. Yeah, the
Smiley Bone.
It's a comic book series. Like you look on the cover, and it looks like a little Disney character, a little cartoon character,
Nope.
and then it's a fantasy epic where people get
It's like Animorphs.
murked. Yeah.
Canceled.
What?
Not gonna happen.
Why?
Too much money. Netflix
Uh,
axed it, just like HBO.
not even. I guess that's better than them making a first season, me falling in love with it, and then they axe it.
You mean, or a whole Cowboy Bebop?
Yep, a whole.
Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, they made Cowboy Bebop, but not.
Cowboy. Their whole thing for Cowboy Bebop, for everybody watching it, like the creators were really big fans. They got like experts on there, and their one mantra on the set and the creative process was one thing. And guess what it was?
What?
Let's not fuck it up.
And they
Fucked
did
it up.
so hard.
Sometimes fans are the worst people to make shows, unfortunately.
It's like, well, some things you can you watch and you're like, oh, this is a really good movie, but it's not made by a fan, or
Yeah.
this was definitely made by a fan, but they're just not a good filmmaker. And I feel like, yeah, that was definitely the case with this, with Cowboy Bebop, the live action. Okay,
but apropos of nothing.
my turn. Apropos of nothing. So I was excited for this movie, Beast with Idris Elba.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not really a huge fan of horror movies, but I do kind of like the subgenre of like the animal monster.
Yes.
Like with, Jaws, think Jaws, or like what's another good
A
one?
really good one is the Ghost in the Shadow.
This definitely Ghost in the Shadow vibes, where they used like actual live action lions. This one is obviously CG. But what I noticed, I saw this clip where Idris Elba is trapped under the car, and the lion's trying to get to him. They make the lion act like an animal, which, having watched Jurassic Park and stuff recently, and like other creature features where they have animals or creatures, they don't usually make them act like animals. Like this one, like if you watch animals on videos and stuff, like this lion, he tries to get to Idris Elba, loses interest, jumps on the trailer on the Jeep, hops off, starts walking away, sees Idris Elba again, goes after her again. Like you watch animals on like trail cams or like encounters, they look like they would just as easily lose interest as attack you.
Well,
But like everything with like Jurassic Park looks like very choreographed and very like set up and posy.
Well, what I think is, because you saw in horror, Jimmy, you don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, fine.
So you are right. It is very interesting because lions are just cats.
Yeah.
You know, if they're not interested in you, they're not interested in you, because lions know that you're not really that high on the food chain and they don't really care.
Yeah.
And like the lions are actually pretty smart too, that they know if they go after a human, there are more humans that'll come after them.
Right.
For me, when you bring up Jurassic Park, I think the point is that why the animals are so aggressive and they don't act like animals is because they're not animals. They're
Right.
genetically engineered monsters, theme park
Right.
monsters. Like the raptors are hyper aggressive animals because they don't fit into this environment. They don't
Right.
fit in this time. They don't fit with these creatures and stuff. So they act hyper aggressive.
Right. But okay, but like I can always tell what's going to happen with Jurassic Park because all right, I'm going to use Skekmal as like let's say actually Karak, my D&D character, is a human, Skekmal is a dinosaur. They always do this thing where like the dinosaur like slowly moves in and then it gets to the crescendo of like tension and then it lunges and like you see it over and over again. Versus like this lion character, you see like his acts are very randomized, very natural. I just thought it was interesting. I wanted to bring it up because I don't see that a lot in movies nowadays, especially creature features.
And honestly, I think the African lion is terrifying.
Yeah.
The mane.
Yeah.
Woof.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'm going to see this in theaters, but maybe around Halloween time, looking for a little scare. Yeah.
Do you think this is going to be the start of more of a creature feature, like the Gray, or maybe not like Lake Placid or something, but like Great Blue Sea, or
if it makes a ton of money, it will definitely be a trend. But if it doesn't, it'll probably just be like the last thing we see of this.
Yes.
They'll just keep cranking out Freddy and Jason sequels until the end of time, or Halloween
Spider-Man.
sequels. Yeah. So the other apropos nothing thing, we talked about this a little bit last week, but I was thinking more about it. Let's talk about Better Off Dead, one of the movies that we as brothers quote all the time. So when I was thinking about this, Better Off Dead is a kind of a surreal black comedy movie. It's a little bit on the par with Airplane in its humor. It's kind of like surreal.
Yeah, but a little bit more down to earth. It's like
it's more grounded in a story than Airplane was.
It's still really good.
Yeah, but it's not a super well known one. But I was thinking about this. This is a really non-toxic 80s teen romance movie compared to like others at the time, like 16 Candles or Weird Science, the John Hughes movies, which people have pointed out have some pretty not okay elements to them.
Did not age well.
But this one, Better Off Dead, it's about a guy who, like, the premise is John Cusack, young John Cusack, breaks up with his girlfriend of 6 months who he was obsessed with, keeps trying to unalive himself and failing miserably. And then, he makes friends with a girl who's a foreign exchange student. Goes on from. I won't spoil everything for you.
And actually develops a very healthy relationship with her.
Yeah, this movie develops. He doesn't like. She's not his manic pixie dream girl. She's not there just to like make him better. She it's very obvious from the start that like she's got like her own like personality and things going on. And when they interact and like he's getting he gets better as a person, but only when they're actually working together on a goal.
Also, so I want to bring this up because I noticed this in the movie.
Yeah.
That Renee.
Yeah.
And what's the
Ricky?
Ricky. I think it's implied that she has sex with Ricky every once in a while, and it's not really brought up like it's a big thing because it's not even implied that they say that they've had sex.
Right.
But it's just like, yeah. I mean, they did that, and now he just wants it all the time, and that's why he's so obsessed with her.
Right. So yeah, it's like. There is some. I don't know if I've.
But
seen, I
no
don't know
one
if I saw
shames her about that. It's just like one of those things. Like, yeah, that happened, and it's fine. But Ricky's over obsession and overness of him, kind of like a mirror to actual John Cusack's character.
Yeah, exactly. So I think so. Like, it's on its surface, it's a kind of a surreal, goofy comedy.
Yeah.
But like thinking about it, especially compared to other movies which are much more famous at the time. It's got way much more of a healthy message.
Yeah.
Like he has to like get over his obsession with his old girlfriend, let that go in a healthy manner. He has to develop a healthy, respectful relationship with a girl. She has her own character and her own things going on, and only when he finally like is able to like let that go and grow as a person do they get together at the very end.
Yes, and also he challenges what's his nuts to the skiing race, not for Beth or any other reason, but because he wants to.
Right.
You know, I think that's really good too. And of course, you know, it's a good movie.
And his mom is like constantly like she's trying to cook, but her recipes are just more and more outlandish as the movie goes on. And
I have French bread, and then for dessert, salad with French dressing.
until she's just like she's like stirring the pot and there's like claws
Claws and tentacles coming out, and then the D plot with Badger in the background is outrageous.
His genius brother who never speaks but builds like lasers.
It just picks up trashy women
Yeah.
for no reason. I also really I didn't think about this, but like, you know, there's a trope even now, but like the skiing.
Yeah.
I thought that started from Better Off Dead, like the ridiculousness of it all.
Yeah.
But is that this is actually out to everybody else and my brother, and if you know this, please comment. Is that a thing with other like other movies? Like, is there a whole skiing genre that I'm missing out on? The teen skiing drama?
I don't know if there's a skiing drama. I honestly, I think it's just a California thing, and they needed like a sport for them to like go. And I think that they probably were like, okay, we can
like,
have some good like stunts with the skiing.
Yeah, but like they make like they bring it up specifically about the 80s and the whole teen romance thing. They bring it up in South Park. They bring it up in Always Sunny in Philadelphia and other media as well. So I feel like it's an actual like thing, right?
Let's see here. It might be a trope.
Ski movies 80s. Yeah, right there.
Ski resort. Okay, let's see here. Do 80s ski movies actually exist, or is it just a trope? This is a Reddit.
Thank you, Reddit.
Hot Dog, Better Off Dead, they are real. I don't recall any others right. There's Fire and Ice. Better Off Dead wasn't. People keep saying Better Off Dead.
Yeah, Ski School.
It wasn't skiing. I wonder. I don't
Maybe
know if
it's
it
like,
was. I don't know if it was necessarily like a ski movie thing, but I wonder if skiing like was having its heyday back then.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But like Better Off Dead is really good. The comedy is so good. Buck up, little camper.
Yeah, we say that all the time. Like he's about to like throw himself off a bridge, and his friend's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm gonna throw myself off." No, you're not. Buck up there, little camper.
One of my favorite scenes is they're up on up on the hill or the mountain, and like the main character's like looking down. He's trying to hype himself up, and his friend, the drug addict, has got like lines of snow on his hat. It's like, wait a minute. This is real snow. Do you know what the dollar amount value of this mountain is? Look, I froze half of my arm.
Yeah, this is like, oh god, like there's just like so many little subtleties in that movie.
Yeah,
definitely go watch it. And apropos nothing, I was just thinking about how like this farce black comedy movie is so much like more healthy a movie than most of the most famous 80s movies.
This is another one I showed Olivia.
Yeah.
She did not appreciate it.
God.
I love her so much. But it's I like how even in this genre, like we have different likes. Jimmy and I, this is
we watched the same stuff growing up, so our humor was informed by that stuff.
Yeah, but like usually when I talk to brothers, like they don't usually have the same interests.
Mm-hmm.
When we were kids going down to the local library, we got Better Off Dead. We watched it, and for some reason, everything just clicked.
Yeah,
it's
yeah, it's not a movie that would click with everybody.
Yeah,
but it clicked with both of us. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. The Paperboy.
$2.
Hey, Johnny, sorry, I don't have a nickel. This puts foot in door. I didn't ask for a dime. $2.
All right, so everyone,
yes, apropos of nothing.
Go watch that and let us know what you think. Yes. Okay, so we are at the end of our episode. We're a little bit over.
Yeah, we are a little bit over. Of course, the Rings of Power and House of the Dragon are gonna be big juggernauts that come into it.
So we're gonna be talking about them all month,
baby. We're gonna try to stay up to date, but we're gonna have more apropos of nothing, other stuff to talk about.
We'll have to see about next week's episode. We'll have to announce it because I am booked for this month. Holy crap!
Becoming an actual adult is outrageous of how much not free time you have.
Right? Yeah.
But you know what? I gotta free myself up every single morning.
What for, Jarrett? What for?
Big Nerd Coffee Company.
Whoa, you mean like that logo that we've got right down there?
Oh my god. Right down there.
There.
Oh my god, yeah, that's hard. Right
It's
down
reversed.
there. That
Yeah,
one.
yeah, that guy
It's like a
right
mirror.
there.
So Big Nerd Coffee Company has a lot of really good specials coming up, especially in the fall. If they come up with a pumpkin blend,
Huh.
I'm done. I'm over.
My God.
Because I recently have been a very bad boy, and I went to Dunkin' Donuts, I went to all these other big chains, and I tried some pumpkin. Just cheap.
Yeah, and not to badmouth Dunkin' Donuts, but
Not badmouth it.
when it comes to chains of coffee, I'll drink Dunkin' Donuts, but their coffee has been so goddamn strong recently.
Yeah.
Oh
It's
my
outrageous.
Lord. I was vibrating like the Flash. Like
Yeah.
it was.
It's horrible, but you know what? Big Nerd Coffee Company has strong brews at a good level.
Yeah.
It's smooth. It'll
Yeah.
keep you up, keep you awake, but
You know what?
it's
You
good.
you buy your own coffee, you get to choose the level.
Exactly. They sell coffee by the bean, and they'll grind it right there for you. So if you're feeling the mood to put it in a K-cup or brew it yourself or a French press, you can. Sometimes I like to get some elder bean and get a good dark roast going.
Yeah.
But if you want some good atmosphere and some games and a great staff, you just got to go down to Bell's Coffee Company and get some good nerdy coffee.
That's right.
Yes. Thank you, Big Nerd Coffee Company, for being our sponsor. And of course, if you guys have any comments or want us to go over any subjects, please comment below or message us on our Facebook or Instagram. You
What?
leave your message or the subject you want to go over with your name and preferred pronouns, and we'll answer it here live on air.
Yep. We're mostly going to be talking about the House of the Dragon and Rings of Power, though. So be
Right.
forewarned is forearmed.
Yeah, forewarned is forearmed, but of course we kind of go on tangents anyway.
Yeah,
so.
we'll talk about literally anything.
Literally.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you everyone out there for watching. This is my favorite part of the week, honestly. So thanks everyone for watching and supporting. We will be back as soon as we possibly can.
Here at Area Nerdy One, we are a area of nerds.
That's
and
right.
we like to we like to do this for you and for us.
Yeah.
But of course, as like we said, we're getting busier and we're working on a couple of other projects, so please stay tuned for that. There will be a couple Fridays that will let you know that we're not going to be there, but it's going to be good.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, catch you on the flippity floppy. Thank you everyone so much for watching. This has been Jimmy.
This has been Jared.
We're gonna delete all that, right?
You know, we talked about Better Off Dead